Welcome to Warping Fist.
One of the best periods for Spider-Man occurred during the early to late 2000s. In comics, gaming, television, and movies, fans eagerly anticipated each new release of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films. The comics were actually pretty good and weren't a mishmash of terrible ideas, at least some of them.
What the hell is even that?
And arguably one of the best pieces of Spider-Man media during this time was a little known show called The Spectacular Spider-Man. Created by Greg Weisman and Victor Cook, The Spectacular Spider-Man was the 6th animated series adapting the character, and arguably was the best among them. Taking some influence from Ultimate Spider-Man, the series would explore Peter's days in high school and elements of the character's history that had never been fully explored, allowing the series to be a bit more relatable to kids at the time. It appears that this approach to a Spider-Man series was incredibly effective, since it won over the hearts of many fans everywhere, with many considering it to be the best adaptation ever made of Spider-Man and his universe. Let's take a look at the development of The Spectacular Spider-Man, its monumentous rise, struggles with its TV rights, and its unfortunate fall at the hands of Disney.
Yoo-hoo! Excuse me, can I come in this way, or do I have to break my own window?
In the late 90s, Sony would acquire the film rights to Spider-Man, alongside the TV rights as well. Initially, they were working on an animated series that would loosely adapt Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man, but that would all change once one monumental film released. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was a gigantic hit for Sony Entertainment and changed the landscape of superhero action films forever. So in order to capitalize off its success, they would rework the initial plans for an animated series to loosely adapt and mimic the style of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, resulting in Spider-Man: The New Animated Series. Spider-Man: The New Animated Series had an interesting approach to a kids' TV show. Not only was the stories a bit more mature, but it also sported a unique, cel-shaded 3D art style that instantly made it recognizable. Unfortunately, the series failed to garner a large viewer base, remaining a niche piece of Spider-Man media. With the cancellation of the new animated series, Sony would begin work on a new project. However, this time, it would be a series that would be a bit more appealing to a wider audience.
How I Spent My Summer Vacation by Peter Parker. I can sum it up in one hyphenated word: Spider-Man.
The Spectacular Spider-Man was announced in August of 2006, with producers Greg Weisman and Victor Cook set to develop the series. The series was made as one of the mini-shows, a part of Sony's new direct-to-DVD division, Culver Entertainment, which was created to distribute DVDs for many of their popular shows. 2 years later, after this announcement, The Spectacular Spider-Man would be picked up and aired on Kids WB on the CW network, with plans to expand the show depending on its viewership.
The Spectacular
Spider-Man.
coming Saturday, March 8th to Kids WB.
The Spectacular Spider-Man was animated by a plethora of different studios, such as Sony's animation studio Adelaide Productions, and some overseas companies. Creating a series with quality animation was important for the creatives involved, including Victor Cook, who states that the series would feature all the hallmarks of classical animation, such as squash and stretch, fluid and fast animation, and cinematic action sequences.
When deciding on the animated style for the Spectacular Spider-Man, what was really important was that it be very animatable. And what I mean by that is because Spider-Man's movements are so unique and so fast that it had to be something that could be done easily by animators in a timely fashion and still look good.
However, they did not want the series to be too cartoony or stiff with the look, instead trying to achieve something fun but also naturalistic. Spider-Man and other characters needed to be stylized but simple enough to create recognizable silhouettes and easy enough for animators to draw. To develop this distinct art style, the creative team would approach Sean Galloway, who had previously worked on Hellboy, Blood and Iron, to develop the look of the show, as they felt that his art style was perfect for their vision. When Sean Galloway was initially brought onto the project, he began working on some early character designs for several cast members, including Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker, and Mary Jane Watson. When it comes to Mary Jane, she doesn't actually look very different from her final appearance. Instead, we see the most stylistic deviations when it comes to Gwen Stacy's design. In her original look, she sports a red hoodie, long blonde hair, and a red hair tie at the top. But when you see her original design, it's hard to believe that it's the same character, as now she rocks shorter hair, a purple hoodie, a purple hair tie, and a sliver of dyed hair near the front of her head. We are also blessed with some alternate designs for Peter Parker, who instead of having a blue shirt with a long sleeve shirt underneath, now sports baggy pants, an orange shirt, and a plethora of different hair and nose variations. Spider-Man also went through a bit of a design evolution. His original appearance had more muted colors, his eyes were a lot sharper, and his proportions were more exaggerated and are a bit more square when compared to the rounded design of the final look. These early character concepts for Peter, MJ, Gwen, and Aunt May indicate that originally the art style for the show was a bit more detailed and stylized than the one they ended up going for, but ultimately the final art style was a bit simpler and thus easier for the animators to work with. When the Spectacular Spider-Man aired on the Kids WB, it was met with critical acclaim by both fans and critics. The series was revered for its fantastic animation, compelling narrative, fun characters, and exciting action scenes. Arguably, the best part of the series is its faithfulness to the comics, while also doing something unique and different. In fact, the Ditko and Stan Lee era, John Romita Sr., the original 90s cartoon, Ultimate Spider-Man, and the Raimi films served as a major influence from when they were first developing the series.
We as a crew on the Spectacular Spider-Man really wanted to give fans of the classic Spider-Man something that they can respond to, but we also wanted to contemporize them and bring them to a whole new audience.
Wiseman and the creative team didn't want to make any unnecessary changes to the original comics. Instead, they borrowed every possible element they could find and attempted to contemporize it for more modern audiences. They also combined characters and story arcs from the comics to enhance the series even more. But unlike the comics, which featured many disconnected stories, false starts, and conflicting storylines, due to the nature of how comics are written, the Spectacular Spider-Man had the luxury of being one complete story, allowing it to be more cohesive and consistent with its storyline.
We're starting everything from scratch, but a lot of our stories come right out of the comic books. We won't necessarily be telling them all in the exact same order, and we're condensing his continuity a bit so that we can introduce some characters earlier that weren't introduced until later in the comics. But there are stories that we're lifting right out of the early comic books, particularly, again, the Lee Ditko and the Lee Romita years.
With the massive success of the first season, the creative team would of course begin work on a second season that would pick up on the plot lines from the first and set up new ones as well. In fact, the Spectacular Spider-Man was envisioned as a 5-season storyline following Peter Parker's journey through high school. However, due to many problems that started to emerge, these seasons would never come to fruition.
For once, I'm making all the right moves. All the smart choices.
During the development of the show's second season, the CW would begin phasing out Kids WB from their network, as many companies at the time began moving away from kids programming. However, that created a problem, as Culver Entertainment now had nowhere to air Spectacular Spider-Man's second season. Luckily, there were dedicated channels specifically catered towards children's programming, and on December 12th of 2008, it would be announced that the Spectacular Spider-Man would air on the new channel Disney XD, and the series would be used to draw new audiences to the channel.
Swing in with 3 back-to-back episodes of the Disney XD series premiere of The Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, me.
It all starts Monday, March 23rd on Disney XD.
For Canadian fans, the series would debut on Teletoon early, which for all you American viewers and Strange Creatures is a channel that broadcasts a wide variety of cartoons. This decision to release early in Canada may have backfired in the long run, as episodes for the series would be uploaded to many video sites, especially YouTube, where a lot of fans proceeded to watch the show early, unintentionally hurting the show's chances on Disney XD. It does not help that the series was placed on awkward time slots on Monday and Wednesday nights, which for a kid who goes to school is a strange place to put the show. The show was also put on a months-long hiatus for seemingly no reason. Episodes were aired out of order, and there was basically zero promotion for the series. And worst of all, the final episode of Season 2 aired with no dialogue, just the pure sound effects, until the very latter half of the episode. It's unknown why this issue took place, but it's likely due to apathy, as Disney did not seem to care much about the show. All these strange occurrences with the show would make one believe that Disney was intentionally sabotaging the success of the show, and it's likely exactly what they were doing, as even members of the production had suspicions that was exactly what was happening.
But then what ended up happening is that they started showing the show out of order. They never had it on the same time. They never did any promotion for it. So we're like, they're putting it on here to die, aren't they? And then when we didn't hear anything about it, we kind of knew, they're probably getting rid of the show.
It was becoming very clear that the Spectacular Spider-Man would never make it past Season 2, as the overall viewership for the second season was significantly lower than the first. When Disney announced that they bought Marvel Entertainment, that served as the final nail in the coffin for the Spectacular Spider-Man, as due to many legal and financial complications, Sony had to relinquish all TV rights to Marvel Entertainment, and since Disney now owned the company, it ultimately meant that they now owned the rights to Spider-Man on TV. On the same day of the announcement of acquisition, Marvel and Disney would reveal a new Spider-Man TV show, loosely adapting the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. The sad truth is that it was much easier to just create a new series instead of continuing the Spectacular Spider-Man. This is because despite now owning the Spider-Man TV rights, Disney had no rights over the previous Spider-Man shows that were produced prior to their acquisition. This includes the shows developed by Sony Entertainment. The only way for the series to continue at this point was for Sony and Marvel to collaborate, something that would never happen, at least at the time.
You do this for a living? With that accent, I was thinking rodeo clown.
Don't you mock me, boy!
I mock. I'm a mocker.
As stated previously, the Spectacular Spider-Man was envisioned as a 5-season series that would continue with and expand plot lines set up in the previous seasons. Every season would explore a progression in Peter Parker's time in high school, all the way to the 5th season where he would graduate. There would also be 3 DVD films set in between each season, and every film would expand upon the stories set up in the mainline series. The first film would have explored Peter taking a trip to Florida, where he may have encountered the Lizard. The second film would explore Peter's summer vacation and his transition from junior to senior year of high school, and the third film would dive deeper into his senior year. After Peter graduated high school, there would be additional DVD films to cover his time in university, eventually ending in Peter marrying Mary Jane Watson. Out of every potential season for the series, we know the most about season 3. In regards to information about this season, we know that the villains Carnage, Mr. Negative, Morbius, Hobgoblin, Hydro Man, and Scorpion were all set to be the antagonists of the season, and the season would also set up characters to evolve into villains later on, like Miles Warren, who becomes the Jackal. Villains like Eddie Brock and Venom would also return, as the symbiote would somehow make its way to Ravencroft, where Eddie's being held prisoner. This would likely lead to the introduction of Carnage into the series. There were also many fun ideas for episodes and story elements that the creative team would introduce, like the Spider-Mobile, Spider Tracers, and an episode focusing on Peter boxing Flash Thompson. Wiseman had also expressed for other Marvel characters to appear in future seasons, such as the Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men, and the Hulk. Just like many series before it, the Spectacular Spider-Man will never see the light of day again. And although it's nice to see him return in the Spider-Verse movies, I think most will agree that this incredible series was taken from us too soon.
Our goal for this series is either ridiculously naive or ridiculously ambitious, or both, which is that we want this to be the Spider-Man series, the one that 20 years from now, people are going to look back and go, wow, that was Spider-Man.
We're hoping to create a Spider-Man that will be a classic. That this will be a show that'll be remembered 20 years from now as the ultimate Spider-Man show.
Something that's both incredibly contemporary but incredibly iconic and classic.